All right, let's get right into it. If you've got any Italian heritage and you've ever tried to learn the language, you might know this weird feeling, this little sense of disconnect. Maybe you grew up hearing your grandparents talk. You totally got the flow, the emotion, it all just made sense. But then you go and grab a textbook, or you download an app to learn proper Italian, and suddenly it feels, well, completely foreign. If you're nodding along right now, I promise you, you are not crazy and you're not bad at languages. There is a real and frankly a super interesting historical reason for this exact feeling. What you're experiencing is this gap between the language you heard around the dinner table and the standardized version that's taught in schools. It makes your own heritage feel like something you know but somehow can't quite grasp, a familiar yet foreign language. So here's the big reveal. The simple truth. The language your grandparents spoke and the language of modern Italy, they're probably not the same thing. And the story of why that is actually the story of Italy itself. To really get this, we have to jump in a time machine. We need to go back to the very moment when millions of Italians were packing their bags and leaving home for a new life. Okay, look at these dates. This is so important. Italy becomes the country in 1861. Right after that, the huge wave of immigration starts. But, and this is the key part, look at that last date. It wasn't until the 1960s, the era of TV and radio, that standard Italian really took over the whole country. That timing changes everything. Because, get this, back in 1851, when Italy was officially formed, only 2.5% of the people there actually spoke what we now think of as standard Italian. Just 2.5%. So what on earth was everybody else speaking? They were speaking their own local languages. And these weren't just funny accents, no way. These were completely distinct languages that had been around for centuries. So when your ancestors boarded those ships, they weren't bringing Italian with them. They were bringing Sicilian, Neapolitan, Calabrian. You mean it. All right, prepare for the big aha moment. This is where it all clicks. Let's look at the actual words side by side, and you'll see just how different these languages really are. Just look at this table. In English, where are you going? Standard Italian is dove vai. Okay, but in Rome, it's dove. In Sicily, uni vai. Those aren't even remotely the same words. Or how about let's go? Standard is andiamo. In Rome, anamo. In Sicily, jamu. It's a completely different vocabulary. And that's it. That is the entire reason for all that frustration. It comes from this one simple misunderstanding. You weren't struggling with your grandma accent. You were basically trying to understand Portuguese by studying French. They're related, sure, but they are not the same language. So to call these dialects broken Italian is just wrong. It's like saying Spanish is just broken French. It doesn't make any sense. What they are really are sister languages. They all evolved from Latin side by side with Standard Italian, and each one has its own unique grammar, its own words, its own everything. But hang on, the story doesn't end there. It actually has this really fascinating modern twist. Because if you went to your family's village today and started speaking their old dialect, you might find a whole new kind of communication gap. So check this out. We actually heard from a viewer who was born in Sicily, but his family moved to the States when he was a little kid. He grew up speaking the Sicilian dialect at home, so when he went back to visit as an adult, he figured, no problem, I'll be able to talk to everyone. But that's not quite what happened. What he found was that he could understand some people perfectly, but with others, it was like hitting a brick wall. So what was going on? Who were the people he could actually connect with? Well, the answer turned out to be age. He could talk for hours with his older relatives, people over 50. They still used the local dialect all the time. But the younger generations, his cousins, they spoke almost entirely in Standard Italian. That's what they learn in school, what they see on TV. It's the language of modern Italy. So what in the world does this all mean for you right now? If you want to connect with your Italian roots, which language should you even learn? Well, the cool thing is you have a choice. So here's the bottom line. If your goal is to travel around Italy today, to work there, to just be able to communicate everywhere you go, learn Standard Italian. It's your universal key. But if you want to connect with the very specific personal history of your own family, then exploring your ancestral dialect is an unbelievably powerful journey. A lot of people actually do both. Learn Standard Italian first and then dive into their family's dialect. At the end of the day, this isn't about picking one language and saying it's better than the other. It's about understanding the beautiful, complex reality of Italy's languages and of your own family story. It takes all that frustration you might have felt and turns it into fascination. It lets you connect with the past and the present. So there you have it, mystery solved. That language you remember hearing from your grandparents wasn't bad Italian at all. It was a real historic language, a piece of your own unique heritage. And that leaves us with one final question for you to chew on. What's your family's language story? And what does it mean to you now?